All right, let's talk chess. If you think about a game of chess like a story, then the opening is that all-important first chapter. It's where you set the tone, you introduce the main characters, and you pretty much dictate the entire plot. So let's dive into the art and science of choosing your very first move. And who better to start us off than the legend himself, Bobby Fischer. His take on moving the king's pawn forward 2 squares, 1 e4, was just 3 words: best by test. That tells you pretty much everything you need to know about its power. It's a move with a champion seal of approval, and for a very, very good reason. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the philosophy of the opening, then jump into the 2 big ones, the king's pawn and the queen's pawn. We'll compare them side by side, and then we'll talk about how you can find your own signature style. So let's get this straight. What's the real goal of the opening? It's almost never to checkmate your opponent in 10 moves. The real objective is actually way more practical. You just want to get to a playable middle game, a spot where all your pieces are developed and working together like a team. We're really just focusing on this critical first phase of the game, which usually lasts for, about the first 10 to 15 moves. Think of it like you're building the foundation of a house. If you rush it, or if you get it wrong, that whole structure can just come crumbling down later on. You could read thousands of books on openings, but it all boils down to 3 core principles. First, central occupation. You want to control the high ground, the center of the board. Second, piece activity. Simple enough, right? Get your knights and bishops into the fight. And third, prophylaxis. It's a fancy word, but all it really means is keeping your king safe, usually by castling it away behind a nice, cozy wall of pawns. Okay, on to our first major opening system, the king's pawn. Kicking things off with 1 e4. This is the move for players who love action, who love tactics, and who want an open fight right from the get-go. There's a reason it's the most popular first move out there. So when you play 1 e4, you're basically inviting what's known as an open game. This move immediately frees up your queen and your light-squared bishop, creating these clear pathways for an attack. The board opens up fast, and that leads to these really sharp tactical battles where just one wrong move can be totally decisive. Now, inside the world of 1 e4, the Ruy Lopez is considered the gold standard. It's less about a quick knockout punch and more about applying this subtle, long-term pressure. White develops a bishop to pin black's knight, basically freezing it in place, and that creates a strategic headache that black has to deal with for the rest of the game. Then you've got the Italian game, which is maybe the most natural, intuitive opening in all of chess. The idea here is so simple. Develop your pieces logically and point them right at black's weakest spot, that f7 square. And let me tell you, this can lead to some incredibly sharp attacks, like the infamous fried liver attack, where you actually sacrifice a piece just to rip open the king's position. It's wild. But hey, what if you're on the other side? What if you're playing black against 1 e4? Well, the most ambitious and combative response is the Sicilian defense. Instead of matching white's pawn in the center, black challenges it from the side. This creates an immediate imbalance on the board. It's basically a declaration. I'm not playing for a draw here, I'm playing to win. All right, let's shift gears and head over to the other side of the board with the queen's pawn opening, 1 d4. If the king's pawn is a 100-meter dash, the queen's pawn is a marathon. This opening is for the kind of player who prefers strategic planning and positional maneuvering over, immediate tactical fireworks. See, playing 1 d4 often leads to what's called a closed game. The pawns in the center tend to get locked together, closing down the lines for the pieces. So the game becomes this slower, more strategic battle. It's not about who can calculate faster, it's about who has the better long-term plan. And this opening, it has its own massive universe of variations. For white, you've got the London system, which is a super solid setup. It's fantastic for beginners because the moves are pretty much always the same. For black, you can get aggressive with the King's Indian defense, aiming for this huge kingside attack, or you can play for more subtle control with the Nimzo Indian. Lots of choices. Okay, so we've looked at the 2 major philosophies. Now let's put them side by side and really compare them. This is where you can start to get a feel for which opening might just click with your personal style of play. So you've got to ask yourself this question. Are you the kind of player who loves to launch a direct attack, create a bit of chaos, and just get lost in those complex calculations? Or do you prefer to slowly, patiently build an unbreakable position, squeezing your opponent until they finally crack?
This table really lays it all out pretty clearly. Just compare the top two rows. The king's pawn is high complexity, it's aggressive, and it's all about rapid development. The queen's pawn, more medium complexity, positional, solid, focused on central stability. Now look at the variations. The Italian game is on the lower end of complexity and aims for that direct attack on f7, perfect for beginners. But contrast that with the Sicilian defense, which is extremely high complexity. That's all about creating wild, counterattacking chances for black. So your choice of opening really is a choice of what kind of game you actually want to play.
All right, let's bring this all home. We've covered a ton of ground, but the journey doesn't stop with just picking an opening from a list. It's about moving from simply knowing the moves to truly, deeply understanding them.
And if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Don't fall into the trap of memorizing dozens of moves without having a clue why you're making them. Instead, focus on the spirit of the opening. What are the key ideas? What's the main plan here? If you understand that, you'll know what to do even when your opponent throws a move at you that you've never seen before. As you play more, as you experiment, you'll start to build your own opening repertoire. And this becomes so much more than just a set of moves. It becomes your personal signature on the chessboard. It's how you express your unique style, your own understanding of this beautiful game. So what is your spirit? Do you thrive on that quiet, positional control and those long-term plans? Or do you live for the thrill of a sharp, decisive attack? The board is waiting. The choice is all yours. What's your first move going to be?